On November 28, 2014, a call came into the fire department. The caller said that there was a fire at the River Ranch apartments and that he believed it was coming from the apartment above him.
Fire department, what's the address to your emergency?
Yeah, hi, I'm gonna live over at River Ranch Apartments, and I think there's a fire upstairs in the apartment above me. Stay with me, I'll get someone in the house.
One of Ashlea's friends, Jeff, ran to Ashlea's apartment to check on her. He was let in by one of the maintenance workers. Ashlea's dog was there and ran out, but there was no answer when they called out to Ashlea. Jeff left their apartment because it was too smoky and dangerous. When the fire department arrived, they found Ashlea in her bedroom. Ashlea's hands and feet were bound, but it was clear the fire hadn't killed her. Ashlea had trauma to her head and neck, and there was blood everywhere. Ashlea was positively identified after her driver's license was found nearby. The fire department called in the police. There was no sign of a struggle in the living room of the apartment, and there was no sign of forced entry. Jeff revealed to the police that the door had been locked when he arrived. The arson experts had determined that the accelerant that had been used was rubbing alcohol, which isn't very flammable. Ashlea's white Ford pickup truck was still parked outside, but her keys to the truck were missing. The police believed that whoever had killed Ashlea had locked the door when they left. The police spoke to Ashlea's friend Alexis, who had arrived at the scene. Alexis said that Ashlea had been working around the clock preparing for Black Friday. Alexis said she went to Ashlea's around 3 a.m. as she had been watching the dog while Ashlea worked. Ashlea's plans had been to sleep for a few hours and return to work around 7 or 8 a.m. Alexis said she left at 4:45 a.m. and heard Ashlea lock the door behind her. Alexis also told the police where Ashlea usually kept her work and truck keys. The police now knew that both sets were missing. One of Ashlea's neighbors, a retired California police officer, told the police that he saw a suspicious car around 7 a.m. The neighbor usually smoked a cigarette and knew most of the vehicles that his neighbors drove. He said he saw a black Infiniti G35 and that the car parked right next to Ashlea's truck. Ashlea's manager Chris had overheard the conversation and said he knew who drove that car. Chris said that the black Infiniti belonged to Carter. Carter had been a manager at an American Eagle in Amarillo before she transferred to the Fort Worth store. Carter had become involved in a relationship with a 19-year-old named David. Carter and David's relationship was frowned upon, so Carter was given the option to transfer. David never showed up for work again and was put on Don't Hire Again list. David ended up moving to Fort Worth and in with Carter. Carter was able to cheat the system by changing David's social security number and got him a job at the Fort Worth store.
First time I met Carter, she actually interviewed me for a sales associate job. So I came in and I put in my application, and she said that they're having interviews later that day if I could come back later that day, and so I did. And I ended up getting the job. When I first started working there was 3 assistant managers and a store manager. Carter was an assistant, and she was the one that did all of the floor sets. She was the one that did all of the merchandising, putting everything out, handling the stock people. So if you ever had a question about that kind of stuff, like, you went to Carter. As far as like being personable with customers or other sales associates, she wasn't the one to go to, but she just seemed like she liked her work and was just going to be in her work. I worked there for about 4 years. I left for a couple months in between that. So maybe 2013 or so is when David came along. He interviewed for a stock position. We needed a stock manager. And Carter hired him on, and he started doing stock for us. David seemed happy. He seemed nice. He seemed like a gentleman. He would walk us to our cars at night if it was only a few girls there. So he would walk us to our car and he would walk back. So he seemed genuine. In the beginning, I would describe Carter, we all thought she was cool. Towards the end, I would describe, before she left to Fort Worth, Carter as sort of manipulative. She always tried to manipulate the situation to make it seem better for her. We had accused Carter of dating David, and we had brought it to her attention. She told us no. It had gotten so bad that we brought it to our district manager's attention. He had a talk with her, and then she pulled all of us assistant managers aside one by one and told us that she could not believe that we would say something like that about her. And she started crying in front of us. And I've never seen Carter cry in my life, and I worked with her for 4 years. So it was just an odd sight to see somebody crying who said that she never cried. When we heard first that she stole the deposit for tax-free weekend, we had managers that had previously worked at American Eagle that we still kept in touch with messaging us. Did you hear about this? Did you hear that Carter did this? What happened? Did y'all see anything? And then whenever Ashlea was killed and Carter was arrested, of course, we were all texting each other, trying to see if anybody knew anything that we didn't. I mean, it was just curiosity, because it happened so close to us that I think everybody in the back of their mind was thinking, we stayed at American Eagle overnight with Carter by ourselves multiple times. Like, it could have been any of us. Why was it Ashlea, and why was it not us? One of her defenses was that David forced her to do this, and that did not seem like David at all. After watching some of the footage, it seemed like she was manipulating. It was exactly how she was talking to us when she took us outside to say, I can't believe that you are convinced that me and David are dating. I can't believe that you accused me of this. That is exactly how she was crying to us. So for her to be able to put tears on at a moment's notice, it just seemed so manipulative. I feel like she was just looking out for number one. She was looking out for herself, and she was willing to throw anybody under the bus so that she could get away with it, because she wanted to seem like she was the smartest person. I feel like she wanted to seem like she was in control in that courtroom, and she was going to be the one that said the final word. It's just crazy to think that this happened. I mean, it's been about 8 years since it's happened, and it still feels like a dream. It doesn't feel like it was real.
So, in August 2015, someone had broken into the American Eagle and stole about $18,000 from the safe. On the surveillance footage, a sane man can be seen taking the money. It was clear the person had knowledge of the store. Ashlea reviewed the surveillance footage and told her manager that it was David. The managers were able to determine that Carter had worked the night before and left the door propped open when she took the garbage out. David had access to Carter's keys, and Carter knew when the safe had the most cash. Carter was fired and David stopped showing up for work. It was clear that Carter and David had a motive for wanting Ashlea dead. Ashlea's autopsy report revealed that whoever had killed her was very angry. Ashlea's cause of death was asphyxia and blunt force trauma to the head and neck. Ashlea had been cut in the head, stomped, and had ligature marks on her neck. Ashlea had died shortly before the murder was set. On Saturday, November 29, the police followed Carter and David to the mall around 7:45 a.m. They had been surveilling their apartment since the night before. Carter got out of the car wearing dark clothing, but David stayed in the car. The police followed Carter into the mall and ran into Chris, Ashlea's manager. Chris had been waiting for his managers to let him into the store. After Ashlea's death, the locks had been changed at the store. David was confronted by the police and was arrested for not having his driver's license on his person. David claimed they were at the mall because Carter was filling out new employee paperwork. The police went back to Carter and David's apartment and saw Carter was now in pink scrubs. Carter agreed to answer questions down at the police station. She was asked where she was the day before. She claimed she and David had Thanksgiving dinner together and watched movies. The police didn't believe her and left her alone in the interrogation room. They handed her a bottle of water and watched as she wiped down the water bottle and cap with a tissue. After she wiped it down, she didn't touch the bottle again. The police asked Carter about her trip to the mall that morning, but Carter denied she was there. The police had already obtained the mall surveillance footage. On the footage, Carter can be seen wearing dark clothing, attempting to unlock the gate at American Eagle. Carter had stolen Ashlea's keys, but wasn't expecting the locks to have been changed. She was later seen in her pink scrubs, which police believed she had been wearing under her dark clothing. The police obtained a search warrant for David and Carter's apartment. Inside, they found some receipts. On November 21st, Carter had purchased a murder kit, 2 shovels, rope, gloves, a top, and duct tape. In Carter's car, the police found a loaded Glock, several knives, and David and Carter's cell phones. In David's car, they found a shovel and bungee cords and a top. Ashlea's blood had also been found on the floor mat of Carter's car. It had been transferred from David's boot. The police were able to compare a star-shaped injury behind Ashlea's ear and on the bridge of her nose to the Glock. The injuries were consistent with her having been pistol-whipped. David and Carter had also been texting about planning the murder. David had also texted Carter some coordinates, which led the police to a dug grave out in the middle of nowhere. The police determined that Carter and David gave up on their plan to bury Ashlea on the night they killed her. They set a fire to her apartment instead to try to get rid of the evidence. On December 4th, David and Carter were both charged with capital murder. At Carter's trial, her defense tried to claim that David controlled her and was the true mastermind behind the robbery and murder. On May 26, 2016, Carter was convicted of murder. She was sentenced to life in prison. The police believe she was the mastermind. In 2017, David was also convicted and sentenced to life without parole. So, young agents, write down what do you think about this case in comments. Thank you for watching this episode and see you the next time. Bye.